Welcome to this James the Bike Guy, where unfortunately my post-work pedal is gonna end soon. Well, because the Shimano derailleur failed. It's a pretty rare thing to happen, but let me talk to you about it, and then with any luck, I'm gonna follow this up with how to fix it. To begin going over what's going on with the clutch, what I'm gonna go ahead and do is I'm gonna turn the clutch off, which you'll see quickly return the tension to the chain. And let's just go ahead and shift through the bike just like we were riding. So I'll go ahead and shift here, and it's gonna work pretty much flawlessly. And that's because the clutch itself is really not putting too much tension on. Even as we go into the big gears, it's working perfect. And when I go down, you can see clutch is returning right to where it should be. Now, what the clutch does is it basically eliminates the chain from slapping around as you go down the trail. And so if I turn the clutch on, you'll notice it does that, but it actually gets like super sticky, clicking in a few different spots and then gets stuck. So I'll go ahead and turn it on, and let's bring the chain through the drivetrain here. So we'll go up. You'll see as we go up through the cassette, it's still gonna work out just fine. But as soon as I start dropping down, yeah, becomes totally useless. And what's happening is inside of here, there's a bit too much friction on the clutch setup. So most likely it's either lost all its grease or it needs just a little bit of adjustment to get it dialed in. To service your Shadow Shimano derailleur with a clutch, it's gonna be pretty simple and only requires these tools. And with those tools, you can remove this cover, re-lubricate the clutch mechanism, and get it reinstalled. So we'll go ahead and start the service by removing the cover here. It's gonna be 3 bolts. That's all we're gonna need to take off. And you'll see these are real little screws. And with those 3 screws off, you'll have this cover that you pulled off, and inside of here, you'll see the clutch mechanism. Now in this case, unfortunately, clutch is pretty gross, and you can tell just how it's working. So if we click the lever to lock the clutch mechanism, it'll go forward and get that stuck. Of course, when we then unlock it, just like that, it snaps back into place. So with it in the unlocked position, we want to shift down to the smallest cog, which essentially is taking all of the load off of the rear derailleur. And even here you can see it's not quite operating perfectly. So all we got to do at this point is help slide this mechanism off. Actually, get the rubber O-ring out of the way. And from here, with a nice flat blade screwdriver, we're going to give it just a little bit of encouragement to come out. And that's because this being so so dang rusted on, needs a little love to make it happen. Whew. Just like that, this whole mechanism is going to come off. And let's take a look at a quick shot of the derailleur while we're looking at it here. You can see it's pretty corroded and rusted. Obviously, I was putting off taking care of the maintenance that I should have, and the parts show it. To begin servicing the clutch mechanism, we're gonna start with the barrel and band. So basically, this barrel mechanism, you can see, has these little lines to be able to help it carry some lubricant, and the band is what's tightening down and snugging it up. So to pull these two apart, it's pretty simple. You just place your flat blade a little further into the band clamp, and this is gonna pop on and off. Super nice and simple. So we'll take that aside. We can now check out our barrel. Looks pretty good, but we need some grease. So just wiping it clean, make it look as nice as we can. This is a place where a good lube like Rock and Roll, which cleans and has a little bit of wax in it, can be used in light quantities to be able to just freshen everything up. So you see here, as we're going through, it should be cleaning up real nice. Rock and Roll is awesome for more than just lubricant. So there we go. Looks much better than before, as you can see. And we're gonna do the same work on the band. Clean this up, and there we are. that should be in much better shape. Now, it may be tough to see. I'm trying to get a shot of it, but there's actually some wear marks on the inside of this band. It should be okay, but these bands, as well as that barrel mechanism, are pretty cheap and easy to replace. Now, before we put it back together, we want to use some lubricant, and the lubricant we're using is going to be some Bontrager hub grease. This is for pawls and internal hubs. This kind of stuff is what we're going to want to use. It's going to be nice and sticky, but also resistant to the elements. And you'll just want to go ahead and start slathering this kind of all over that barrel. The idea is to get some good lubricant, and we want to get this worked into the grooves of the barrel. So just nicely kind of move this stuff around. It's a little gloopy, but that's okay. Do the same inside of the band. That nice and lubricated up. And from here, we'll slide our trusty screwdriver right in between and slip this back together. Before we go ahead and reassemble, we need to clean up the post that comes off of the knuckle where the clutch attaches to the derailleur. It's pretty messed up and rusted up here. So essentially, take some sandpaper, go ahead and wrap around that post. Pretty important to take your time here because you do want this to be really good, nice and clean. So keep rotating, keep doing this. You can see that's way less rusty than before. Should be able to take our chain lube as well as the rag, get a little bit of that lube on here, and I'm gonna clean this up. And that should allow us to reinstall our clutch mechanism. Now the clutch mechanism itself, we'll have that pressed in, but it's gonna be super important that you have the long side. See how that's got a long and a short side to the band? That is going to be placed in the up position. And with the band installed, your next thing is we want to take our little cam mechanism here. These are going to slide together so that the roller is going to get tighter when you twist the handle on your clutch. So we'll press those together. It's going to slide right into place here, just like so. And then when we go up, it's tightening, down it's loose. So with the clutch off, it's moving freely. Clutch up, it's still coming back into place. With the clutch mechanism back installed, we'll go ahead and run through. Currently the clutch is off, but we can see derailleur is working as it should here. Perfect, just as expected. So I'm gonna go ahead to the clutch mechanism and flip it up. So that's gonna tighten the clutch in, and let's see what happens. So we'll see it come through. All the way up into the big gears. And down. Looks like it's still keeping the chain nice and snug. So that's great. It looks like the clutch is working perfectly, just as expected. However, if you needed to adjust your clutch, there's going to be a nut at the bottom of that roller cam mechanism, which is going to tighten and loosen the band that's going around the clutch. On Deore and SLX like this, you have to do that with the cover removed. So you would take the cover off and adjust it. On XT and XTR, the better versions, you'll notice there'd be a hole at the bottom of that cover, which would allow you to access that clutch mechanism right with the cover still installed. But in this case, that doesn't exist. So all I'm gonna do is just make sure we've got a little bit of lube just around the band, because we saw that a bit of rust was happening on the inside of the cover. I don't know if you can see it there, little rust right in that corner. So I'm gonna make sure there's some lube around the band. And one quick squirt just inside. And that's gonna allow, as the derailleur goes through, to move the lubricant. Now with that same lube still on your hands, we do want to give some lubricant to our seal. This is going to go on next. Just going to slide right into the recess on your derailleur. You want to make sure this is in here. It's going to help with water sealing, and you want to make sure that it's set before you put your cover on so that you don't accidentally crush it in this process. So cover's going to go right back into place there, and using your Allen key and the little screws, these are just going to screw back into place. And just like that, the whole service is done. It's pretty easy, something you can do probably in about 15 minutes or so after you gather your tools. Just returned back to the car after a great ride, and luckily the bike really held up well. That renewal of the clutch on that rear derailleur made everything shift and function smoothly. So I hope this video helped you out. If it did, be sure to hit that like button. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you can see more videos like this in the future. And definitely feel free to browse the channel and check out all the other videos I have up there as well.